Today you will see the entire path of René Descartes, and it all begins with one disturbing possibility. What if everything you believe could be wrong? What if your memories, your senses, and even the feeling of being awake could be questioned? He built his whole philosophy from that starting point. Before reaching the famous "I think, therefore I am," he pushed every belief to the edge to find one single thing that cannot be doubted. But most people skip the crucial beginning, the moment where he takes the world apart to see what survives. And that is where we begin. Destroy everything you believe, not because your beliefs are necessarily false, but because you want absolute certainty. This was the radical project Descartes undertook in his search for unshakable foundations. If even the slightest doubt can attach to a belief, throw it out. Build knowledge only on what cannot possibly be doubted. Start with your senses. You see a tower in the distance that appears round. Walk closer and discover it is actually square. Your eyes deceived you. The stick appears bent in water but feels straight when you touch it. Another deception. You have a fever and everything tastes metallic. Your tongue lies. Since the senses sometimes deceive, perhaps they always deceive. Maybe nothing is really as it appears. Doubt spreads to everything you have learned through sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Yet surely you can trust your immediate surroundings. Right now you sit in a chair, hold a book, feel the temperature of the room. These basic facts seem indubitable. Then Descartes introduces a more disturbing possibility. How do you know you are not dreaming? In dreams, you experience vivid sensations that seem completely real while they occur. You feel yourself walking, hear conversations, see familiar places. Only upon waking do you realize none of it was real. But right now, at this very moment, how can you be certain you are awake rather than dreaming? You cannot. The dream argument extends doubt beyond distant towers to include your immediate physical situation. Mathematics might survive this doubt. Whether you dream or wake, 2 + 3 = 5. Triangles have 3 sides in dreams, as in waking life. Geometric truths seem independent of sensory reliability. Nevertheless, Descartes pushes doubt even further through the most radical hypothesis. What if an evil demon, supremely powerful and clever, devotes all its energy to deceiving you? This malicious being could make you err even when adding 2 + 2. It could create the illusion of mathematical certainty while actually feeding you falsehoods. Every thought you have, every intuition you trust, could be the demon's deception. This hypothesis is not assertion of what Descartes actually believes. Rather, it is a methodological tool for testing certainty. If a belief can survive even the evil demon scenario, it must be absolutely certain. Most beliefs crumble under this test. The external world might be illusion. Your body might not exist. Mathematical truths might be implanted deceptions. Everything you thought you knew collapses into doubt. Yet precisely at this moment of total skeptical destruction, something survives. One certainty remains that even the evil demon cannot shake. The demon can deceive you about everything except one fact. While it makes you think falsely, you are thinking. While it creates illusions, you are experiencing those illusions. Even if every single thought you have is wrong, you must exist to have those wrong thoughts. The act of doubting proves the existence of the doubter. I think, therefore I am. This is not a logical deduction with premises and conclusion. Descartes is not arguing from I think as premise to I am as conclusion. Rather, the truth reveals itself immediately in the very act of thinking. When you try to doubt your own existence, you find it impossible. The attempt to doubt requires a doubter. The very effort to deny you exist proves you exist. This is direct insight, not inference. Notice what this proves and what it does not prove. It proves that you exist while you think. It does not prove you exist when you are not thinking, though Descartes will argue for continuous existence later. It proves something exists that thinks, but it does not yet prove what that something is. You might be a body, a soul, a computer program, or something entirely unknown. The certainty extends only to the bare fact of existence. nothing more. Nevertheless, this bare certainty provides the foundation Descartes sought. After demolishing all beliefs through radical doubt, he has recovered one absolutely certain truth. The evil demon can make him err about mathematics, deceive him about the external world, trick him about his body. Yet the demon cannot make him think he exists when he does not, because the very act of being deceived requires an existing deceiver. The certainty is bulletproof. What makes this truth so certain? Descartes examines the cogito to understand why it resists all doubt. The answer is that it presents itself clearly and distinctly to the mind. Clear means present and open to attending consciousness. Distinct means separated from everything else, not confused with other ideas. The cogito has both qualities. When you attend to your own thinking, its existence is immediately present to awareness. When you consider what you know in thinking of yourself as thinking, you grasp something unmixed with other concepts. This clarity and distinctness will become the criterion for all subsequent truth. Yet a puzzle emerges. What exactly is this I that thinks? Descartes knows he exists while thinking, but what is he essentially? The question demands investigation. Traditional answers say human beings are rational animals, creatures composed of body and soul. Can Descartes accept these definitions? Not yet. He is still operating within methodical doubt. Bodies might not exist. Animals might be fictions. He needs to determine what he is based solely on, what survives radical skepticism. What are you? Before answering, I am a human being, consider what that would mean. Humans have bodies with flesh and bones. Yet you have doubted bodies exist. Humans have sensory capacities that detect the external world. Yet you have doubted the external world exists. Defining yourself as human assumes too much. Start only with what you know with certainty. You know you think. Thinking accompanies your existence inseparably. Every moment of doubt, every act of questioning, every experience of skepticism proves you are thinking. Therefore, you are essentially a thinking thing. Not accidentally a thinker who happens to have a body, but fundamentally and primarily conscious mind. This is your core nature, the one thing you cannot doubt about yourself. What does thinking include? Not just logical reasoning or mathematical calculation. Descartes uses the term broadly to cover all mental activities. Doubting is thinking. Understanding is thinking. Willing, refusing, imagining, and sensing are all modes of thought. When you feel pain, that is a mental event, an episode of consciousness. When you want something, that is thinking in the form of desire. When you picture a triangle in your mind, that is thinking through imagination. All these activities occur in consciousness, making them aspects of thinking broadly construed. Notice something striking here. You know your mind better than you know anything physical. The wax example illustrates this. Take a piece of wax fresh from the honeycomb. It has specific color, shape, size, hardness, scent. Melt it near fire and everything changes. The color darkens, the shape transforms, the size alters, it becomes liquid, the smell dissipates, yet you judge it remains the same wax. What makes it the same if all its sensory properties changed? Not the senses, which report completely different qualities before and after melting. Rather, your understanding grasps that something persists through the transformations. The mind comprehends the wax as extended substance capable of infinite shape changes. This understanding does not come from sensation, but from mental inspection. Therefore, you know the wax through your mind, not through your senses. Your mind is more intimately known than the physical object, since you access mental states directly while inferring physical properties. Descartes famously had his most important philosophical insights while lying in bed in the morning. He was known for staying in bed until noon, thinking through problems in comfort before rising. This practice reflected his confidence in pure reason, operating independently of bodily activity. The mind works best when freed from physical distractions, demonstrating its independence from the body. Nevertheless, this raises urgent questions. If thinking is your essence, and you know mind better than body, what guarantees that anything exists beyond your thoughts? The evil demon could still be deceiving you about the external world while your mind goes on thinking. How can you prove that your clear and distinct ideas correspond to reality outside consciousness? The answer requires proving that God exists and is not a deceiver. Without God, you remain trapped in solipsism, alone with your thoughts and unable to trust them. You know you exist because the truth is obvious. Not obvious like most things people call obvious, which often turn out false. Rather, obvious in a special technical sense that Descartes turned into his test for all truth. The cogito presents itself clearly and distinctly to your mind. These two qualities define what makes it certain. Clarity means the idea is present and manifest to the attentive mind. Think of looking at something in bright light versus dim shadows. Clear perception shows the object fully, leaving nothing hidden in darkness. When you think about your own existence while doubting, the thought is clear. Nothing about it remains obscure or uncertain. You see it completely, the way you see your hand when you hold it directly before your eyes in sunlight. Distinctness means the idea is separated from everything else, unmixed with other concepts. A distinct idea contains nothing except what is clear. Consider pain. You clearly feel pain when it occurs, yet the idea might not be distinct because you confuse the sensation itself with judgments about what causes it. You feel pain in your foot and immediately think your foot is damaged. The sensation is one thing, the judgment about physical damage is another. Failing to distinguish them creates confused understanding. The cogito is both clear and distinct. Clear because your thinking is immediately present to consciousness. Distinct because you grasp your existence as thinker without mixing in assumptions about body, location, or anything else. This combination makes it impossible to doubt. Therefore, Descartes proposes a general rule. Whatever I perceive clearly and distinctly must be true. Test this rule on mathematical truths. 2 + 2 = 4. Is this clear? Yes. When you attend to it, the truth is immediately manifest. No shadows or obscurity cloud it. Is it distinct? Yes. You understand exactly what it means without confusing it with other concepts. You are not mixing the mathematical relationship with empirical facts about apples or stones. Pure arithmetic stands alone. Since the idea is clear and distinct, it must be true. Geometric truths work identically. A triangle has 3 sides, clear and distinct. The internal angles of a triangle sum to 180 degrees in flat space, clear and distinct when you work through the proof. These truths present themselves with the same kind of certainty as the cogito. They cannot be doubted when you perceive them clearly and distinctly. Nevertheless, a problem emerges. Right now, while you attend to 2 + 2 = 4, you perceive it clearly and distinctly. The truth seems certain. Yet 5 minutes from now, when you are no longer actively thinking about it, how do you know your memory of having perceived it clearly is reliable? Perhaps you only thought you perceived it clearly, but you were actually confused. The evil demon could be manipulating your memories, making you falsely believe you once had clear and distinct perception. This creates circular threat. You want to use clear and distinct ideas to prove other truths. Yet you need to guarantee that clear and distinct perception is reliable. How can you guarantee this without already assuming what you are trying to prove? The circle breaks only if you can prove that a good God exists who would not allow you to be systematically deceived. God becomes necessary to validate the criterion of truth itself. Inside your mind sits an idea of perfection. You think about infinite, eternal, all-knowing, all-powerful being. This idea is clear. Yet where did it come from? Not from sensory experience, since you have never encountered anything infinite through your senses. Not from your own nature, since you are finite, limited, imperfect. The idea of perfection cannot arise from imperfection any more than heat can flow from cold objects to hot ones. This is the trademark argument. An effect must have adequate cause. Your idea of God as perfect being requires a cause that possesses at least as much reality as the idea represents. You are imperfect and finite. You could not create the idea of infinity from your own resources. Therefore, the idea must have been placed in you by something actually infinite and perfect. God exists as the cause of your idea of God, leaving his trademark on your mind the way a craftsman marks his creation. Think about this concretely. You can imagine a mountain made of gold, even though no such mountain exists. How? By combining two ideas from experience, mountains and gold. But you cannot construct the idea of infinity by combining or extending finite things. Adding finite to finite always gives finite. Multiplying finite by any number stays finite. The very concept of infinity is qualitatively different, not reachable from finite building blocks. Its presence in your finite mind proves an infinite being placed it there. A second proof proceeds differently. Consider the concept of God as most perfect being. This being must possess all perfections. Existence is a perfection, since existing is better than not existing. Therefore, God must exist, or else God would lack a perfection and not be most perfect being. This ontological argument tries to prove God's existence from the mere concept of God. The argument seems strange. You cannot usually prove things exist just by analyzing concepts. The concept of a perfect island does not prove such an island exists somewhere. Yet Descartes argues God is unique. Case: existence belongs to God's essence, the way three sides belong to a triangle's essence. You cannot have a triangle without three sides. Similarly, you cannot have God without existence. Trying to conceive a non-existent God is like trying to conceive a triangle without three sides. The concept itself is contradictory. Why does Descartes need God to exist? Because without God, the evil demon hypothesis remains possible. You perceive mathematical truths clearly and distinctly, yet a deceiving demon could make you err even about what seems most certain. Only if God exists and is not a deceiver can you trust clear and distinct ideas. God's perfect goodness guarantees he would not create you with cognitive faculties that systematically mislead you about what you clearly and distinctly perceive. This is not circular reasoning, though it seems close. Descartes argues that while you actively perceive something clearly and distinctly, you know it with certainty, even without proving God exists. The cogito and the proofs of God themselves are perceived clearly and distinctly in the moment of thinking them. God's existence becomes necessary only to guarantee your memory of past clear and distinct perceptions and to justify trusting your cognitive faculties generally when you are not actively intuiting truths. God saves you from solipsism. With God proved to exist and shown to be benevolent, you can now trust that the external world exists. Your clear and distinct idea of extended substance corresponds to actual physical reality because God would not deceive you about fundamental perceptions. Bodies exist. The physical universe is real. You are not just a mind floating in void. Yet this creates a new puzzle. If both mind and body exist, how do they relate? What is the connection between thinking substance and extended substance? You are two completely different things stuck together. Mind is thinking substance. It has no extension in space, no length or width or depth. You cannot measure consciousness in centimeters or weigh thoughts in grams. When you divide a body, you get smaller body parts. When you try to divide consciousness, you get nothing. Your mind is essentially indivisible, a unity that cannot be split into spatial pieces. Body is extended substance. It occupies space with definite dimensions. You can measure it, divide it, locate it. Your arm extends from shoulder to fingertips. Cut it in half and you have two pieces of matter. The body operates according to mechanical laws. Push it and it moves according to physical force. It has no thoughts, no feelings, no consciousness, just geometry in motion. These are not two aspects of one thing, but two entirely separate substances. Substance means something that can exist independently without requiring anything else except God's sustaining power. Mind can exist without body. Body can exist without mind. They are as different as any two things could possibly be. One thinks but does not extend. The other extends but does not think. What they share is merely that both are created substances depending on God. This radical separation solves certain problems while creating others. It solves the problem of how you can know your mind exists with certainty while still doubting bodies exist. If mind and body were one substance, you could not be certain of one without being certain of the other. Their complete independence allows you to know mind first, then later prove body exists separately. The separation also explains how mind can survive bodily death. Since they are different substances, destroying the body does not necessarily destroy the mind. Nevertheless, mind-body dualism creates the famous interaction problem that haunts philosophy for centuries afterward. If mind and body are completely different kinds of things, how do they affect each other? When you decide to raise your arm, a mental event somehow causes a physical event. When you stub your toe, a physical event somehow causes mental event of pain. This causal interaction seems impossible if mental and physical are entirely different substances operating according to different principles. Consider the problem concretely. Your immaterial mind has no location in space. Your material body exists in specific place with definite position. How does something with no spatial location interact with something that is essentially spatial? Normally, physical causation works through contact. One billiard ball hits another, transferring momentum. Yet your non-spatial mind cannot make contact with spatial body. There is nowhere for them to touch. Descartes died in Sweden trying to tutor Queen Christina at 5 in the morning in freezing cold. The early morning philosophy sessions killed him after a lifetime of sleeping late and thinking in the comfort of his warm bed. The irony is striking. His philosophy separated mind from body so radically that mind should be independent of bodily conditions. Yet the harsh physical environment destroyed him, proving that mind depends on body more than his dualism admitted. The mind-body problem becomes one of philosophy's most persistent puzzles. Later thinkers try various solutions. Occasionalism claims God intervenes at each moment to coordinate mental and physical events. Parallelism claims they run on separate tracks that never interact, synchronized, like two clocks. Materialism denies mind exists as separate substance, reducing it to brain activity. Idealism denies matter exists as separate substance, reducing it to mental phenomena. Each solution tries to escape the problem Descartes created by splitting mind and body so completely, yet his dualism had enormous influence despite the problems. It matched common intuition that minds and bodies are fundamentally different. It explained how thought could grasp universal truths independent of particular physical situations. It made space for human freedom by separating mental choices from mechanical, physical causation. Most importantly, it enabled the scientific revolution by allowing physics to treat nature as pure mechanism without worrying about consciousness, purpose, or meaning. The physical world could be studied mathematically while mind remains separate domain requiring different methods. Watch a clock. Gears turn, springs unwind, hands move across the face. Everything happens through mechanical interaction. One part pushes another, transferring motion according to fixed laws. No purpose guides the gears. They do not aim at telling time. Rather, the clockmaker designed their shapes and connections so that purely mechanical causation produces timekeeping as result. Descartes argued that all of nature works exactly like this. The physical universe is a vast machine. Stars, planets, oceans, weather, plants, and animals all operate through mechanical causation alone. No final causes, no purposes or goals built into things, no natural tendencies toward perfection. Ancient and medieval philosophy claimed that acorns grow into oak trees because they aim at realizing their oak nature. Fire rises because it seeks its natural place. Heavy objects fall because they desire the earth. Descartes rejected all such teleological explanations as confused anthropomorphism. Physical events have only efficient causes. One event produces another through mechanical interaction. The acorn grows into an oak because of efficient causes involving moisture, heat, cellular processes, not because it aims at anything. Fire rises because hot air is less dense than cold air, and mechanical laws determine fluid motion. Objects fall because of gravitational interaction between masses. Purpose and intention exist only in minds. Matter has no purposes, only mechanical operations according to mathematical laws. Animals are biological machines. This shocking claim followed from his principles. Animals have bodies, but no minds. They do not think, feel pain, or experience consciousness. When a dog yelps after being kicked, the yelp is purely mechanical response, like a bellows releasing air when compressed. No sensation accompanies it. The animal is an automaton, however complex its behaviors might appear. Only humans possess minds in addition to bodies. How could Descartes claim this? Because animals lack language and rational behavior proving conscious thought. Dogs respond to stimuli through mechanical programming, not through understanding. You can train them through repetition, creating mechanical associations between actions and consequences. Yet they cannot grasp universal truths, form clear and distinct ideas, or doubt their own existence. These capacities require immaterial mind, which only humans possess. This mechanical view of nature enabled modern physics. If the physical world operates according to mathematical laws alone, scientists can study it through measurement and calculation without worrying about purposes, meanings, or conscious experiences. Chemistry becomes analysis of matter in motion. Biology becomes study of complex machines. Medicine becomes bodily mechanics and repair. The separation of mind from nature allowed nature to become purely quantifiable, purely mechanical, purely mathematical. Nevertheless, if nature is pure mechanism, what is the essential nature of physical substance? What properties belong necessarily to matter as such? Descartes needed to identify the essence of body to complete his account of extended substance. Strip away everything accidental about a physical object. Remove its color. Now imagine it without taste or smell. Take away its temperature, its texture, its weight. Remove every sensory quality until nothing sensory remains. What persists? Extension. The object still occupies space with length, width, and depth. This is the essence of matter. Extension means spatial magnitude in 3 dimensions. Every body takes up space, has size and shape, exists at a location. These geometric properties cannot be removed without destroying the object entirely. Try to imagine a physical thing with no spatial extension. Impossible. Therefore, extension is not accidental property but essential nature of material substance. Body is extension and nothing else fundamentally. All other physical properties reduce to extension and motion. Color is not in objects themselves, but in how their surfaces reflect light particles moving at different speeds. Sound is not heard by the objects making noise, but consists of pressure waves, matter in motion traveling through extended medium. Heat is not felt by the hot object, but consists of rapid particle movement. Every sensory quality reduces to geometry and motion when properly understood. This means physics becomes applied geometry. Studying the physical world means studying extension, its modes and modifications. Mathematics is the language of nature, because nature is essentially mathematical. Geometric truths govern physical reality. When you discover a theorem about triangles, you discover truth about any triangular arrangement of matter. When you calculate the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, you discover physical constant applicable to every circular object. Space and matter are identical. There is no vacuum, no empty space between bodies. This follows from identifying matter with extension. If space is just extension, and extension is the essence of matter, then space and matter are the same thing. What seems like empty space between objects is actually subtle matter too fine to detect with senses. The entire universe is one continuous plenum of extended substance with no gaps. Place a wine bottle in a barrel. Remove the wine without letting anything else enter. Common sense says empty space now occupies the bottle. Descartes denied this. the bottle's shape immediately fills with surrounding subtle matter. No emptiness exists, even for an instant. The very concept of spatial vacuum is contradictory once you recognize that space is extended substance. This geometrical conception of matter had profound consequences. It eliminated occult qualities and mysterious forces from physics. Everything physical reduces to matter in motion, shapes and sizes interacting according to mathematical laws. No hidden essences, no inexplicable powers, no irreducible qualities. Just extension, its mathematical properties, and the mechanical laws governing how extended substances affect each other through contact and motion. Yet, a puzzle remains. If sensory qualities are not in objects themselves, and mathematical truths describe necessary features of reality, where did your knowledge of mathematics come from? Not from experience, since experience shows you colors and sounds and textures, not pure geometry. The answer requires examining innate ideas, concepts built into the mind itself, rather than derived from sensory input. A child has never studied mathematics, yet can understand basic arithmetic. Explain addition once, and the child grasps that 3 + 2 always equals 5. Not just in the cases they have experienced, but universally and necessarily. This universal knowledge cannot come from particular experiences. The child has encountered 3 apples and 2 apples making 5 apples. Yet they understand that 3 of anything plus 2 of anything equals 5 of that thing. How? The concept of number is innate, not present in consciousness from birth like a fully formed thought, but present as potential or disposition that experience activates. You are not born thinking about arithmetic, but you are born with mental structure that makes arithmetic possible. When experience provides occasions for mathematical thinking, the innate concepts emerge and develop. The mind is not blank slate waiting for experience to write on it. Rather, the mind comes equipped with fundamental concepts that organize and interpret experience. Mathematical truths are innate. The axioms of geometry, the principles of logic, the foundations of arithmetic exist in the mind independently of sensory input. You do not learn that a thing cannot both exist and not exist at the same time by observing many cases. You grasp the principle of non-contradiction immediately as soon as you understand what it means. This shows it was always in your mind, waiting for activation through reflection. The idea of God is innate. You possess the concept of infinite perfection despite never encountering anything infinite through experience. Your finite experiences cannot generate the idea of infinity any more than your imperfect experiences can generate the concept of perfection. The idea must be placed in you by God, planted in your mind as the craftsman's signature is stamped on his work. You discover the idea through introspection, not through sensory observation of the world. Logical principles are innate. Whatever is. A equals A. If A, then B, and A, therefore B. These basic rules of reasoning are not learned from experience, but structure all possible experience. You could not learn them empirically because learning itself requires using them. Every empirical inference assumes logical principles. Therefore, those principles must precede experience, making them innate. This doctrine opposed the empiricist view that all knowledge comes from experience. John Locke would later attack innate ideas, arguing that the mind begins as blank slate and acquires all content through sensory input and reflection. Yet Descartes insisted that the most important knowledge is innate. Experience provides occasions for activating and developing innate ideas, but it does not create them. They were always potentially present in the mind's structure. Descartes kept his work on physics secret for years after Galileo's condemnation by the Church. Only when he felt safe from censure did he publish carefully, avoiding claims that might attract ecclesiastical attention. His theory of innate ideas fit perfectly with religious doctrine. If God plants ideas in the mind, then knowledge ultimately comes from divine illumination rather than from sensory interaction with matter. This made his epistemology theologically acceptable while enabling his revolutionary physics. Nevertheless, Innate ideas create philosophical problems. If mind and body are completely separate, and if innate ideas exist in mind prior to experience, how does body affect mind at all? When you see a tree, light particles mechanically impact your eyes, sending signals to your brain. Yet your brain is body, extended substance, while your mind is thinking, substance. How does the physical brain event produce mental sensation of greenness? The answer leads to one of the most puzzling parts of Descartes' system. Mind and body are completely different substances. One thinks without extending, the other extends without thinking, yet they clearly interact. You decide to move your arm and it moves. A pin pricks your finger and you feel pain. Mental events cause physical events. Physical events cause mental events. If mind and body are so radically different, how is this interaction possible? Descartes needed a meeting point, somewhere in the body where immaterial mind connects to material flesh. Most of the body contains paired organs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 kidneys, 2 lungs. Yet consciousness is unified, not divided. Therefore, the interaction point must be a singular, unpaired structure. Only one organ fits this description, the pineal gland. This tiny pinecone-shaped structure sits near the center of the brain. Descartes proposed it as the seat of the soul, the unique location where mind and body unite. Immaterial soul resides in this gland, moving it through acts of will. When you decide to look left, your soul tilts the pineal gland, which redirects animal spirits flowing through the brain, which contracts specific muscles, which turns your head. The chain begins with mental volition and ends with physical motion, bridged by pineal movement. Animal spirits are not spiritual entities but physical fluids. Descartes imagined them as extremely fine particles flowing through hollow nerves like water through pipes. When you see something frightening, the visual impact mechanically opens certain nerve passages, allowing animal spirits to flow in patterns that prepare the body for flight. These same patterns affect the pineal gland, causing mental sensation of fear. The gland translates physical impacts into mental experiences and mental decisions into physical actions. Think about this concretely through an example. You touch a hot stove. Heat particles impact your skin, agitating nerve endings. This opens nerve channels, allowing animal spirits to rush toward the brain. The spirits enter the brain through specific pathways determined by the injury location. They strike the pineal gland in a particular pattern. This physical impact produces mental sensation of pain. Simultaneously, the spirits trigger automatic withdrawal reflex. Your hand pulls back before you consciously decide to move it. The theory tried to explain both voluntary and involuntary actions. Voluntary actions begin with mental decisions that move the pineal gland, directing spirits to appropriate muscles. You consciously choose to walk, and your soul orchestrates the complex mechanical sequence by directing spirit flow. Involuntary actions bypass conscious control. Reflexes happen purely mechanically, though they still involve the pineal gland as relay station between body and resulting sensations. Yet the solution satisfied nobody. How exactly does immaterial mind move physical pineal gland? If mind has no spatial location or physical properties, it cannot push or pull anything. Physical causation requires contact between extended substances. Mind, lacking extension entirely, cannot make contact with matter. The pineal gland does not solve the interaction problem but merely relocates it to a specific anatomical site. Furthermore, later anatomy revealed Descartes got the facts wrong. The pineal gland exists in many animals that Descartes claimed lack consciousness. It is not unique to humans. Moreover, its function involves hormone secretion, not coordination of movement or sensation. The gland is important for biological regulation, but has nothing to do with consciousness. Modern neuroscience has found no single location where mind and brain unite, no seat of the soul in any literal sense. Nevertheless, Descartes' attempt shows how seriously he took the interaction problem. He recognized that mind-body dualism creates puzzles requiring physiological detail to address. Even if his specific solution failed, the approach influenced how later thinkers conceived consciousness in relation to brain mechanisms. His account of emotions particularly depended on understanding their physiological basis. You see a bear. Immediately, your heart races, muscles tense, breathing quickens, fear grips you. What is this emotion? Not purely mental event, according to Descartes. Rather, passions are caused by bodily motions affecting the soul through the pineal gland. Understanding emotions means understanding their physiological mechanisms. Animal spirits flowing from the heart and lungs strike the pineal gland in specific patterns. Each pattern produces distinct emotional experience. When spirits flow rapidly and turbulently, you feel agitation. When they flow smoothly and steadily, you feel calm. The quality and quantity of spirit movement determines which passion you experience. Emotions are essentially bodily phenomena that the soul perceives through its connection to the body at the pineal gland. Descartes identified 6 primary passions from which all others derive. Wonder arises when you encounter something surprising or novel. The unexpected object halts the normal flow of spirits, creating suspension that focuses attention. Love and hatred are opposites, one drawing you toward objects perceived as good, the other repelling you from perceived evils. Desire propels you toward absent goods you want to obtain. Joy follows from possessing what you desire. Sadness comes from lacking what you want or experiencing what you hate. All complex emotions build from these 6 primitives through combination and variation. Pride is joy combined with love of yourself. Shame is sadness combined with hatred of yourself regarding some deficiency. Hope is joy mixed with desire when you anticipate probable good outcomes. Fear is sadness mixed with desire to avoid probable bad outcomes. Each emotion has specific physiological signature involving particular patterns of spirit movement. This physiological account had practical purpose. If emotions are bodily phenomena, you can control them by managing the body's mechanical operations. Someone prone to anger can learn to slow their breathing, calm their heart rate, and redirect spirit flows when provocation occurs. The soul cannot directly choose which emotions to feel, since passions are caused mechanically by body. However, the soul can indirectly influence emotions by controlling bodily states that generate them. Consider a concrete technique Descartes recommended. When you feel overwhelming anger rising, deliberately adopt physical posture of calm. Relax your shoulders, slow your breathing, unclench your fists. These voluntary physical actions alter spirit flows, which in turn change the emotional pattern striking the pineal gland. The mechanical causation works both directions. Mind moves body, but body also moves mind through its effects on the soul. Moreover, the soul can prepare itself for emotions by reflecting on proper responses before passions overwhelm judgment. Someone who has clearly understood through reason that a particular insult deserves no serious response will experience less intense anger when insulted. The rational judgment does not prevent the bodily passion from occurring, since that happens mechanically. Yet it weakens the passion's force by providing contrary mental content that resists the emotional impulse. This account made emotions neither purely mental nor purely physical, but interactions between soul and body. The soul experiences emotions as mental states, yet those states have bodily causes through mechanical impact on the pineal gland. Emotional control requires understanding both dimensions. Pure willpower cannot directly eliminate unwanted passions, since their physiological basis operates mechanically. Yet, rational preparation and bodily management can indirectly shape emotional life. The theory influenced later emotion research by emphasizing physiological components. Modern neuroscience confirms that emotions involve complex bodily states, including heart rate changes, hormonal releases, and neural patterns. Where Descartes was wrong is in thinking emotions happen through special fluids striking a particular gland. The mechanisms are far more complex. Yet his basic insight that emotions connect mental experience to bodily processes remains valid. Understanding passions completed Descartes' account of human nature as union of mind and body. Yet his ultimate vision extended beyond psychology to encompass all knowledge. He believed reason could discover truth systematically across every domain, building unified science on mathematical foundations. Mathematics proves theorems without performing experiments. Euclid discovered geometric truths 2,000 years ago that remain certain today. No one needed to measure millions of triangles to confirm that their angles sum to 180 degrees. Pure reason demonstrates it once and forever. Descartes believed all knowledge could work this way if properly organized. The method requires starting from self-evident truths known with certainty. The Cogito provides the first principle. From this foundation, deduce further truths using logic alone. Each new truth must follow necessarily from previous ones, creating chains of reasoning as certain as their starting points. Build systematically like geometry builds, from axioms to theorems, never accepting anything that is not clearly and distinctly perceived. Mathematics provides the model because mathematical truths are necessary and universal. 2 + 2 = 4 in every possible world. Geometric principles govern all spatial arrangements. These truths are discovered by reason, not learned from experience. If mathematical reasoning can achieve such certainty, Descartes believed the same approach could unlock all knowledge. He envisioned philosophy as a tree. Metaphysics forms the roots, establishing foundations about God, soul, and substance. Physics forms the trunk, applying mathematical principles to understand extended substance and its mechanical operations. From the trunk grow branches of specific sciences: medicine, mechanics, and morals. Each branch depends on the trunk, which depends on the roots. All knowledge connects in a single systematic whole. Pure reason can discover truths about the physical world without extensive experimentation. Once you understand that matter is essentially extension, and that extension must obey geometric principles, many physical facts follow deductively. The laws of motion derive from the nature of extended substance. The conservation of quantity of motion follows from God's immutability. Physics becomes geometry applied to matter, provable by reason rather than requiring endless empirical testing. This rationalist confidence seems extreme by modern standards. Scientists today rely heavily on observation and experiment, knowing that reason alone cannot reveal contingent facts about nature. If physics could be deduced from pure principles, why do we need laboratories and instruments? Experience repeatedly shows that the universe does not conform to what pure reason expects. Yet Descartes' method succeeded brilliantly in certain domains. His analytical geometry united algebra and geometry, showing how geometric problems translate into algebraic equations solvable by calculation. This was genuine discovery through pure reason, not empirical observation. His laws of motion, though later corrected by Newton, were derived through rational analysis of what motion must be given the nature of matter. Even where his specific conclusions failed, his confidence in mathematical physics as rational science was justified. The rationalist method assumes that human reason, properly employed, can grasp the fundamental structure of reality. God created both world and mind according to the same rational principles. Therefore, clear and distinct ideas in the mind correspond to actual features of reality. The mathematical truths your reason discovers necessarily apply to the physical world because God designed both on the same geometric plan. This optimism about reason's power shaped modern philosophy for centuries. Rationalists like Spinoza and Leibniz extended Descartes' project, trying to deduce all reality from necessary principles. Even empiricists like Locke, who rejected innate ideas, agreed that systematic knowledge requires proper method. The scientific revolution Descartes helped launch combined rational deduction with careful observation, using both reason and experience rather than choosing between them. His actual contributions to science were mixed. Some theories proved correct, others completely wrong. He correctly explained rainbows through light refraction. He incorrectly explained planetary motion through vortices of subtle matter. His anatomy was often inaccurate. His physics needed major corrections. Yet his methodological vision of nature as mathematical mechanism, amenable to rational analysis, became the foundation of modern science, regardless of which specific theories survived. The rationalist dream of deducing all knowledge from self-evident first principles never fully succeeded. Reality proves more complex, more contingent, more resistant to pure deduction than Descartes hoped. Nevertheless, his confidence that reason can discover necessary truths, his insistence on clear thinking and systematic method, his vision of unified knowledge connecting mathematics to physics to medicine, these shaped how philosophy and science understand their tasks. You think, therefore you are, and because you think, you can discover truth through reason's proper use.